Hello, I'm Langston, and I'm back on my channel military election forecasting. And I've been gone for a hot minute. I've had the ability to upload on this channel. I just haven't really had any motivation to. I kind of made a community post about that, but sometimes you just don't have the motivation to do this. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but I've talked a lot about politics. Like, I've had so much interest in it, but I just haven't really wanted to upload about it. Like, I'll start uploading, and I'll just stop. Like, everyone, I wonder, other people, like other podcasters, just have like that mentality, like where sometimes it's like you have all of this to say, but you just don't want to record a video. So part of me felt like I was done with this channel, but I'm glad to be back, and I'm going to be talking about I think some of the most important political topics, as well as candidates across the country. So, who I want to first talk about is obviously Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is the most talked about person, as always, as of now. And recently, we've seen a lot of polls that have had Donald Trump up, and you've seen Donald Trump even winning the youth vote and doing very well with black voters, which are two very democratic voting blocks. So, personally, I think that that's some bullshit. Like, I don't think that Donald Trump will improve with those demographic groups, but I definitely think that a lot of them might not turn out to vote. So, something I want to talk about is just the perception of Donald Trump in general. So, since I started this channel, I've been a big Trump defender. Like, I have stood for Donald Trump from the beginning, and regardless of my own political views, I'm not delusional. Like, Donald Trump is an electoral force, and I think of any candidate in our lifetime, Donald Trump has changed politics more than anybody. And I don't think people necessarily really give the impact as to what Donald Trump is, because Donald Trump's movement is not just an American movement, it's a European movement. It is a South Korean movement. Like, you've seen this in Brazil, you've seen this across the globe where you have leaders echoing Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is not just Donald Trump, like, he has a movement behind him. And you oftentimes hear people trying to, act like he's the worst person ever, the worst candidate ever. And that's just not true. Like, you can't have a president who won by won in 2016 and came so close to winning in 2020 and then act like that person has no chance of winning. When it took record breaking black turnout, it took record breaking youth turnout to defeat someone like him. Yet somehow you just think that he's so easy to defeat. It does not make any sense to me. Like, the Democratic logic, in particular, when dealing with Donald Trump. And I also think the same thing with moderate Republican logic. And I'm going to get into that later. But Donald Trump Donald Trump scandals will never matter. Like, I don't understand people that don't understand that, because I mentioned this in one of my first videos, but Donald Trump is who we really are. Donald Trump is who most Americans really are. Like, Barack Obama might be who they inspire to be, and they might settle for Joe Biden, but Donald Trump is who they really are. We are toxic. We are liars. We are gaslighters. We are delusional. We are fake. We spread rumors. We believe in conspiracy theories. Some of us are narcissists. Like, we are all of these things that Donald Trump is. But what makes Donald Trump so appealing is that he acknowledges that. He acknowledges his flaws, and that's something that other candidates don't do. So Donald Trump has this connection to a huge chunk of the American electorate because he is real. Like, see, a lot of things you want to say about Donald Trump, but he is who he is. Like, he's unapologetically himself. And that's something that I think many people go looking for, which is why oftentimes when you see someone act crazy, like, for example, I noticed it like back in the day, Kamala Harris, like, she used to like really attack a lot of her Republican colleagues in the Senate, and she was getting mainstream from that. Like, people were they were standing behind her because people are that. People aren't presidential. Like, people are not put together well. And his tax fraud, that he just got indicted for as well in New York. Okay, a lot of people don't want to pay their taxes. A lot of people, they dread when April 15th comes. So, like, I'm saying, these very toxic things about America, like about ourselves, we really are that. So people never care about Donald Trump scandals. They never have. They didn't care in 2016. They didn't even care in 2020. The only reason people cared in 2020 was Democratic voters. Those were Democrats turning out to vote. It overpowered Donald Trump. It wasn't Trump's base. It wasn't Trump. It wasn't swing voters. It was Democratic base constituencies that put Biden in office. It was black voters. It was young voters. Those are the ones that made Joe Biden president. So this consensus that you hear coming from Democrats about, oh well, Donald Trump, he's the he's who we want. No, you don't. And now I'm hearing people talking about Democrats want to face Donald Trump. They don't want another Republican. They want Donald Trump. You know who said that? Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton sponsored Donald Trump's campaign. So did Barack Obama, and that backfired. I wonder if Hillary Clinton and Obama would have not have supported Donald Trump, would it even won a Republican nomination? Like, would we be talking about Donald Trump, or would we be talking about, Hillary Clinton versus Jeb Bush? They changed the Republican Party because they thought that was what was necessary for a guaranteed Hillary Clinton victory, and that failed. And to think that same logic would benefit Joe Biden is absolutely delusional. And many people even think Joe Biden's in a worse situation Hillary Clinton was. And personally, I see it. And I'm from the most Democratic voting bloc in the country. I'm from one of the most Democratic counties in the country, and I've seen it firsthand. I've seen people who have voted for Joe Biden who would never vote for him again, who think their vote was taken for granted. And that's, something else I want to, add into. But Donald Trump is a specific brand in this country, and he is a formidable force, and it takes a lot to beat him. He is not just some candidate you can mop the floor with. He's not. He's not Mitt Romney. He's not John McCain, and you just can't beat him. And I don't understand people. It takes a movement. It takes coalitions to defeat Donald Trump. And that's something that other Republicans could just be defeated so easily. And when you have people trying to compare, Donald Trump to his proteges, if you want to go by that logic, obviously 2018 was a blue wave year. But look at how well Democrats performed in 2018, and swing states in particular. And look what happened in 2020 in just 2 years. So again, all of the shit Donald Trump did, it didn't matter. Donald Trump said he was going to that tape of Donald Trump saying he was going to grab women by their private parts came out like 2 weeks before the election, 2016. When he asked Republicans, like when he asked Russia to find Hillary Clinton's emails, that shit came out like what, a month before? Like, did voters care? And what Democrats don't understand is it's not about caring, it's about who cares. Because what matters is your own voters. It's not about other ones. And something that Democrats don't understand is they're trying to appeal to voters who aren't going to vote for them anyway. And I'm going to get into that later because it's going to be a little long podcast, but y'all need to hear some very valid facts because some of y'all are just so. Every time I get on social media and I see someone like just talking about how Donald Trump is the boogeyman, like, or I come on YouTube and they have Donald Trump like, oh, he's so bad of a candidate. Like, bruh, are you serious? Like, how many examples do you need? When Trump is on the ballot, Republicans perform much better, and we've seen this. Trump ignites a huge portion of the electorate to turn out that would not turn out without him. And I don't think that Democrats are prepared for that right now. And I'm 100% real with you. I'm not confident to say that Joe Biden would win re-election if the election was held today. I think that Joe Biden would narrowly hold on. I'm going to make a video about that, but I'm not confident that he would win re-election. I'm not. Like, I think Donald Trump probably has a 35% chance of winning, maybe almost 40%. I recently had Donald Trump having like a 25% chance of winning. I'll move that up to 35%. I still think that he's not favored. I think the electoral map benefits Democrats, but I do think Trump will get close. And I don't think that Democrats understand their own base. And I want to talk about that, in a separate section of this video, because this section is about Donald Trump. And I think that Donald Trump is it's going to take a lot to beat him. And I don't think Democrats understand it. Like, other Republicans, they're easy to beat because Donald Trump, he ignites rural voters, he ignites working class voters. And what Republicans and Democrats as well don't understand about other American electorates is they're inelastic. Like, for example, like urban voters, rural voters, they're going to vote how they're going to vote anyway. They might not turn out to vote, but they're very inelastic. And that's something Republicans and Democrats don't understand. Like, basically, you're only going to perform so well because a huge portion of the electorate is going to vote how they're going to vote, especially white voters for the most part. They're very inelastic. And you might improve with college educated white voters, but you're going to lose ground with non college educated white voters. And those they cancel each other out. So what you turn to is your base. And that's something that Democrats have to ask themselves, your base. Because Joe Biden did not win because of suburban voters. Like those suburban voters, they don't net you enough votes to win. So for Donald Trump, he does not need the suburbs. He does not need moderate voters to win. He can win with a smaller share than he won with last time. The same way he did so much worse with Mitt Romney with them and still won. He does not need to win those voters. He needs for Democrats to not turn out to vote. And when looking at Joe Biden as a candidate, that does not seem that unlikely. And I don't think that people really want to give it the thought process that they need to really dissect the American electorate. Because this is why I'm so accurate at making predictions. Because you can look across lines and see so many different perspectives. And Donald Trump is just such a strong Republican force. And in my opinion, Donald Trump is the strongest Republican candidate we've seen in our lifetime. And without him, the Republican Party would be in a much worse situation because Republicans should be losing by more. They should be losing by more. Like when you have America as democratic friendly as it is, when you have you know, as many minority majority states as you do, like as all these college educated voters, these growing Hispanic voters, growing Asian American voters, Republicans should be losing by more. But they're not. Like they still are losing, but they should be losing by more because they're losing by more with Romney. They're losing more. They were losing more with John McCain, and yes, they were up against a much formidable candidate, but they were losing by more. So Donald Trump has changed. He has postponed America's dramatically changing demographics. And that might have caught up with him in Georgia. It might have caught up with him in Arizona. It might eventually catch up with him in North Carolina and, Texas in the road, but it's not catching up as fast as it should be. So now I want to move on to Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris is someone who's also been very prominent in the media as of recently. Kamala Harris is also seen as a boogeyman. As well by Democrats and Republicans. Like, I think that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are both viewed as the same, just from different perspectives. Like, from you have Kamala Harris viewed as the boogeyman for the Democratic perspective, and Donald Trump viewed as the boogeyman from the Republican perspective. Like, Kamala Harris is seen as the absolute worst candidate that Democrats can nominate. Like, she cannot be nominated. Like, she can never be the Democratic nominee. And You know, Biden is really in the trenches with black voters right now. And I am a black person. Like when I'm telling you, black people are angry with Joe Biden. Like they're over him. They're not going to turn out for him. I am from DeKalb County. Like I've lived in a predominantly black area. Most of my friends are black. Like I have a very diverse friend group, but I know like I've seen it. And do I think that Trump is going to improve with those voters? No. But in terms of like turnout, like, yes, like these voters really do feel betrayed. Really feel betrayed by Joe Biden. That shit is not going to change. Like their perception of him, that shit is thrown out the water. And that should have dragged Kamala Harris down. It's dragged Raphael Warnock down as well because they're tied. They're tied into Joe Biden because they're the ones who are tied to Joe Biden, and they might be seen as better. Like like I say, black people have a love hate relationship with Kamala Harris. They have a hate relationship with Joe Biden. They have a hate tolerate relationship with Joe Biden. Like they tolerate Joe Biden. They do have some love for Kamala Harris. That is like the prominent like perspective. Like Kamala Harris, like she can invite all of these black celebrities. They will come to the White House for her. Like they will come do things for her. Like we saw that concert she had. Right now she's having a concert all around the country. Not concert. She's having like tours all around the country to appeal to like black HBCUs. And she's having huge crowds come out to like people don't understand is Kamala Harris does have a base. Like she does have support. Like people act like Kamala Harris don't have no supporters. Like nobody likes her. And it's like she does have voters. She has voters that would not even voted for Joe without her. Like I don't understand people like I know people that only voted for Joe because he picked a black woman. I don't just know people, I know dozens of people that did that. And what's crazy is all those people are from the Atlanta area. So these are votes that push Joe Biden over the top. So again, like these voters, I know people that only voted for Joe because of her. And I think that she's lost a lot of support as well because of being tied to him. But at the same time, like she's still in a much better situation than Joe. So anytime there's race issues, Kamala is always used to try to, bridge the gap between Joe and these voters because Democrats are scared. Democrats are scared. And that's why it really pisses me off when I see all these, people online talking about, oh, you know, it's a fraud, it's a lie, it's all of these things. No, it's not. No, it's not. Democrats are in the trenches, and they need to accept that. Because I'm hearing people talking about these special elections, these midterm performances. What you saw in the 2022 midterms was you saw really bad rural turnout. You saw really bad working class turnout, and you also saw really bad black turnout as well. Like I want to say about like black turnout was really bad for Democrats, and that did cost Democrats, some prominent races in North Carolina and Wisconsin, but rural turnout cost Republicans a lot as well. So basically, bad base turnout from the Democrats and bad base turnout from the Republicans canceled each other out. And you had the suburbs deciding the election. But in 2024, that would not be the case. So in 2024, you're going to see a lot better rural turnout with Donald Trump. You're going to see a lot better working class turnout with Donald Trump on the ballot. And if black turnout does not go up to cancel that out, Democrats are going to get their ass whooped. Like that's the simple way to put it. If Trump's base turns out, and black people don't turn out to counteract them, it's the same 2016 shit we was back at. Like we going right back to 2016. We going right back to 2021 Virginia. Like that's literally where we're going back to. And how many times you have to see the same election, the same electorate before you get it? Like the same shit is happening, and y'all sitting up here acting like this ain't the same shit that you was dealing with the last election cycle, bruh. Like how are y'all this damn delusional? Talking about Kamala, like I think that for example, Kamala brings a lot to Joe Biden, and I think that you have people talking about replacing Kamala Harris from the Democratic side, which just shows you like how little they understand their own base, and that's why Joe Biden is performing so bad in these polls, because in what world would you replace a black woman with a white woman when you're already losing support from the black community? Does that sound smart to you? Like, if you cannot win without the black community, you're going to replace a black woman vice president with a white woman? That are you serious? Like, I want you to think about that from a logical perspective, like from their perspective. That'd be the end of Joe Biden. These voters probably don't even want to turn out for him now. Can you imagine like the headlines if Joe Biden got rid of if he made the first black woman vice president and decided to kick her to the curb for a white person? Can you even imagine like the amount of pushback? Like what people don't understand is Kamala, she has, a lot of haters. Like, she has a lot of criticizers even from her own base. But blood is always thicker than water, and people don't understand that. Like, people might talk all the shit they want to talk about in the world about Kamala Harris. But when it's time to choose between her and a white person, they will come running. And that's something you've seen. When Elizabeth Warren and Hillary Clinton came for Kamala Harris, the black community destroyed Hillary Clinton. They destroyed Elizabeth Warren. They forced her to apologize. They read her for the filth on Twitter. When Greg Abbott dropped off those what is it, those immigrants at Kamala Harris's doorstep. They dragged Greg Abbott. Like he was turning off his comments and shit. They went ape shit on him. They went fucking crazy on him. Like they was not playing no games with Greg Abbott. When Ron DeSantis started his little beef with fucking Kamala Harris this weekend. Not this week, I'm sorry, in the summer, they went crazy on Ron DeSantis. I mean, they hate Ron DeSantis anyway. Ron DeSantis is public enemy number one to them. So, I mean, they were going to go out. They wanted a reason to attack him anyway. But when he came for her, they dragged him. When I remember what was his name? When David Perdue mispronounced Kamala Harris's name back 2020, he got dragged by voters. Like, people understand this. They might have frustration with Kamala personally, but she's still a black woman. Like, she still represents them. So at the end of the day, they see themselves in her. That's something Republicans don't understand. Like, they see themselves in her. And because of that, if you attack her, they internalize that and they see themselves as being attacked. And now they want to turn out for her. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a very logical, it's the same thing with Donald Trump. Like, if you think about it, like when you attack Donald Trump, you anger rural voters and you make them turn out. When you attack Kamala Harris, you anger black people, you make them want to turn out because they see themselves in her. They might criticize her, but they have beef with her because they don't think she's doing enough for them. They still see her as part of their community. Like, so when it comes to that, like, her perception is not the same as Joe's. But Joe is definitely damaging her and all of her allies. Like, Kamala Harris has hella allies in the black community. Like, she got supporters everywhere. And we saw this with her little damn what is it? Her little rap festival, as well as all of her little supporters that would just defend her against anybody. And it's especially like when she get attacked by a prominent conservative, especially a white person, they gonna go crazy. Like, because at the end of the day, she's still the first black woman vice president. And because of that, the same thing with Obama, the same thing with Raphael Warnock, they see themselves in them. And when you attack her, they feel like they're being attacked because they see themselves in her. So that's something conservatives don't understand, as well as Democrats, that even though, yeah, people might have beef with her personally, they still see themselves in her. She is much more representative of the Democratic base than Joe Biden. So because of that, like, Joe Biden definitely needs her to win the same way he needed her in 2016. I mean 2020. Like, he picked her for a reason. So again, like, people need to kind of internalize that, and they're not doing that. Like, they're making her the boogeyman as well. And I do want to say he's using her, and people see that. Like, people, that's another reason why people are mad. Like, why are you always using her for to fix your own bullshit? You know what I'm saying? Like, people see that as well. So that's definitely another important topic I want to talk about when moving on to Joe. So I want to now talk about what the GOP doesn't understand, because I think a lot of moderate conservatives, they want to target like Donald Trump, like, oh, Donald Trump is the boogeyman, like, especially the Mitt Romney generation. Is if Mitt Romney didn't lose himself, like, Mitt Romney, you lost too. So why are you attacking Donald Trump when he lost by less than you? Like, I'm not trying to be rude. Like, y'all are both losers. I don't like Republicans are just in denial. Like, you are in a losing predicament. You're in a losing situation. I don't understand why Republicans cannot understand that. Like, you cannot win if Democrats unless Democrats don't turn out to vote. You were outnumbered. You were outmatched. You are the minority. And until you can accept that, you cannot win. You are in a losing situation. And if Democrats turn out to vote, you're going to lose. It doesn't matter who you run. So you hear Republicans talking about running Nikki Haley, running Mike Pence, okay, and you're gonna lose with them too. The same way you lost to Mitt Romney, the same way you lost with John McCain, you're going to lose. You're in a losing situation. Acknowledge that. You're in a losing situation. And something that is Mitt Romney knew this shit in 2012. Like, basically, the common consensus in 2012 was Mitt Romney lost because of America's changing demographics, because he got Reagan numbers with white voters, but he still lost. Huge at that, because of America's changing demographics. Like, those numbers just did not work for modern America. So again, this is something Republicans been knowing. Like, America's becoming more diverse. America's becoming, in particular, more Hispanic, more Asian, and Georgia and North Carolina are becoming more black. And I do want to point out that the Rust Belt is, becoming more Republican. You're seeing black people leave the Rust Belt, reverse migration. You're seeing Trump bring a lot of these working class and rural voters into the Republican column. And I do want to point out a lot of these voters had never voted before. So again, I'm tired of people acting like all of these voters are former Democrats. Like, a lot of them just did not vote. The same way a lot of, like, Trump and Obama, they both changed America's electorate. Like, Obama, he brought a lot of black people that were uninterested in politics into the electorate, and that flipped Virginia. Like, that made Georgia, North Carolina competitive. Like, it made the Rust Belt seem more democratic than it was, especially the cities. And that changed the electorate. Same thing with Donald Trump. Like he brought a lot of rural voters, a lot of working class voters who were not voting. These were non-voters. He did not feel motivated by America's electorate. He brought them into the electorate. So because of that, Donald Trump has got Republicans to the point where they're in striking distance. Now, can they win? No. Like if black voters turn out to vote, if younger voters turn out to vote, Republicans cannot win. But they can win if those voters don't turn out to vote, which is a likely scenario as of now. So again, when you have Republicans trying to run these other candidates and thinking they can just replace Trump and win, you can't. Like you are gonna lose regardless of who you run. And you can sit up here and try to compare Glenn Youngkin and all of these other candidates that only won because of badass black turnout and bad Hispanic turnout and basically the same shit that caused Donald Trump to win as well. Like these candidates, they all won because of the same thing Donald Trump won by. Donald Trump won in 2016 because of bad black turnout and because a lot of these voters that were Bernie supporters didn't want to turn out to vote. That's the main reason he won. Because even with all the shit he did, if those voters would have turned out to vote, he would have still lost. It might have been by a smaller margin, but he would have still lost. So again, like you cannot win regardless of who you run because these college educated suburbs, they're trending left regardless. Like Mitt Romney, like even though he did a lot better with Trump, he did a lot worse than George W. Bush in the suburbs. Like these suburbs have been consistently trending left for decades. This shit was happening way before Donald Trump. So people blaming Donald Trump for this, like Donald Trump is literally just working with the electorate he's being handed to. Like I don't understand why people try to blame Donald Trump. Like he's being handed an America that's less white, America that's more educated, America that's more Hispanic, that's more Asian, that's more consecrated in cities. Like he's been handed a unfriendly electorate. Like of course he's going to lose. Like I don't understand. Like what do you expect him to do? Like you want like unless he can change America's electorate, like Republicans cannot win. Which brings me to my next report because I think this is a very sad thing I'm going to use, but a lot of these mass shootings you're seeing take place, like for example, these white supremacist mass shootings in particular, they're happening because of this very reason. If you actually read the manifestos of these white supremacist shooters, they understand what's happening. And the reason they're attacking these black people, the reason they're attacking these, minorities and other groups of people is because they see America's electorate is changing and they're losing political power. And they know that. They know it. And I mean, that's why they're violent. I mean, I'm not saying that's the same way, but it's the same logic. They understand it. And what's crazy is, in particular in states like Georgia, the Ku Klux Klan knew this shit centuries ago. Like these states, especially when it comes to black voters in particular, they fought so hard. Like they fought to the bitter end to stop black people from voting. They didn't fight for no damn reason. They didn't create the runoff system without no reason. I talked about this in my, Georgia political documentary. Like they didn't just create this shit for no reason. This shit had an intended purpose. And conservatives, they refuse to acknowledge that. Like Democrats didn't just do this shit for no like Republicans didn't do this shit for no reason. Alabama, they just fought so hard to keep those gerrymandered districts, those racially oppressive districts. They fought for that for a reason. So again, like Republicans are in a losing battle. And the reason why these white nationalists are so prominent, like, is because they understand that. And Republicans need to see the writing on the wall. Like, you're not going to win. And I do want to point out that I still think Republicans can win because I think that, there's a lot of dissatisfied Democrats. But unfortunately, if Democrats do vote, you don't have a path, regardless of who you run. And that brings me to my next point, which is Ron DeSantis. Because I think Ron DeSantis is the worst candidate Republicans can run, in my opinion. Maybe Vivek Ramaswamy, because something Republicans don't understand is Donald Trump, he expedites rural turnout. Like he brings out rural voters. Without Donald Trump, Republicans still do bad in the suburbs. Like they still gonna do horrible in the suburbs regardless of who they run. Like the Republicans, they underperformed Donald Trump in 2016 in the suburbs, even the strongest ones. They can't even get Donald Trump 2016 numbers, let alone which was also seen as the worst this we've ever seen at the time. They can't even ship the suburbs back to 2016, let alone further than that. So, like I'm saying, the suburbs are gone for Republicans because the main reason the suburbs are trending so fast to the left is because of demographics. They became a lot more Hispanic, they're becoming a lot more Asian as well as Black, and those are Democratic voting blocks. So you cannot win because of that. And when you have white college educated voters that are also trending to the left, that is, that's gonna change these suburbs to the left. That brings them out of reach. And when you have rural turnout, that Donald Trump brings to Republicans, they cannot get that. Even if they run Trump as candidates, they cannot get Trump rural numbers. So regardless of who you run, you're not going to get those Trump numbers. You're still gonna do bad in the suburbs. You're still gonna get destroyed in the cities. So you're not just gonna lose, you're gonna lose by more. Which brings me to my point. Like when talking about Ron DeSantis is the dumbest candidate I think we've ever seen. Like, because Ron DeSantis, he targets the worst communities. Like, for example, Ron DeSantis, we all know about his war with the black community. Like, I think that is his most prominent. Like, Ron DeSantis is seen as public enemy number one in the black community. And, you know, he's really been in like every day it gets worse for him. And you've seen mass shootings in Florida now. Like we saw the Jacksonville mass shooting. This is not the first like mass shooting. This is not the first racist attack we've seen in Florida. So this is the first time this shit has happened. And of course, black people blame Ron DeSantis for that because like you have a consistent history of targeting them. And to the points where even Republicans have came out against Ron DeSantis. Like you are literally targeting these voters. You're literally targeting them. And what Republicans don't understand is, I'm not gonna say Republicans because I do say Republicans did stand up against Ron DeSantis because a lot of them they are smart strategically. Like they understand that the more black people that vote, the more Democratic votes there are. Like that's just math. And when you're inspiring black people to vote, that's a problem in Michigan. It's a problem in Pennsylvania. It's a problem in Wisconsin. It's a problem in Georgia. It's a problem in North Carolina. That's a problem for Republicans nationally, especially when they're trying to win a federal election because Donald Trump only got elected in the first place because they didn't turn out to vote. Glenn Youngkin got elected because they didn't turn out to vote. Brian Kemp got elected because they didn't turn out to vote. Ron Johnson has won how many Senate races because these voters didn't turn out to vote? Like, how many Republicans have benefited from that? Nothing in America benefits Republicans more than bad black turnout. And when you have a candidate like Ron DeSantis that's inspiring these voters, I'm talking about you have a long history. It started when you drew maps to oppress these voters. You did that. And then in the same month, you banned AP Black History while introducing AP Asian history into schools and defending the history of other communities. But you purposely banned AP Black History. Fast forward, you then, besides banning Black history, you decide to change how Black history is taught and say that slaves had some benefit from slavery. And then in the same breath, on the same day of the Jacksonville mass shooting, go to court and defend Jacksonville being split into two or three pieces to marginalize the predominantly Black areas in Jacksonville. On the same day of the Jacksonville's mass shooting, you go in court to defend these voters being attacked. Like, are you serious? Like, how are you gonna sit up here on the same day as a mass shooting in the same city, go to court and defend your maps to oppress those voters? Are you serious? Like, and Republicans are saying, oh, well, black people, they don't vote, they're not gonna vote Republican anyway. Yeah, that's true. But it's not about voting, it's about turnout. Something Republicans can benefit, especially with Trump, is turnout. Like those voters are not motivated to turn out for Joe Biden. So what Republicans can do is they can benefit from these voters not turning out to vote more than anything. And when you have someone like Ron DeSantis, he's going to motivate them to come out in full force. Because yeah, they might not turn out against Trump, but they damn sure would turn out against someone who banned their history, who changed their history, that you're seeing black people flee the state of Florida in droves. They mainly move into Atlanta and Charlotte and Houston. Like they're going to other, they're not going far, but still, like they're black people are leaving Florida. Like the war with Ron DeSantis and these voters is bad. Like it's really, really bad. And I do, Republicans are definitely calling him out on that. But you still see this moderate, like this section of the Republicans that think Ron DeSantis is their only hope, and he's not. And that's not even talking about the fact that Homie has also started beef with the LGBT community, which we know is toxic for the suburbs. He's also banned abortion, like not, but he's restricted it substantially, which is also bad for the suburbs. And he's also started these really radical culture wars. Like he is appealing to this very radical section of the Republican Party, which motivates Democrats to turn out to vote, which causes Republicans to lose. So he is the worst option for Republicans, in my opinion. Like, even I think other Republicans are bad, but he motivates the Democratic base to turn out to vote, which is something that Donald Trump does not do. Because Democrats have seen they lived under 4 years of Donald Trump, and yes, shit was bad, but has shit changed since then? So why am I going to turn out to stop someone when I've lived through his presidency and my life has not changed now? So that's a very powerful message. And now I want to move on to, I think another important topic, which is Joe Biden. Like, I think that Joe Biden's in a really bad situation. And I don't think people are really talking about it. Like, I think that people are, you know, just so out of touch with, where Joe Biden, especially Democrats. Like, Joe Biden is hated. I'm gonna be real with you, black people hate Joe Biden. Like, they might tolerate him, but for the most part, they hate him. Young voters, they hate him as well. Like they only tolerated, they never even liked him from the beginning. They tolerated him. So you have a huge portion of the American electorate, which is a Democratic base. These are the voters that put Joe Biden in office. And I think that Joe Biden, they're showing Joe Biden struggling with Hispanic voters. I don't agree with that. Like, I think that Joe Biden's in a much better situation with Hispanic voters than we expect. Like, I think the Hispanic voters are a lot more, um, they're a lot more, what I'm saying? Like they're open to, voting for Joe Biden. And these voters, they voted for George W. Bush despite all his scandals, despite the Iraq war, despite they still shifted to him. They voted for Obama. They shifted to Obama in 2012, even when the whole country shifted right, except for the black community. In some of these, certain prominent areas across the country, like the Atlanta suburbs, like a couple other areas in the country, they shifted to Obama in 2012, despite 2008 being a blue wave year. In 2020, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, despite the Black Lives Matter movement, like despite all of these other things in 2020, they still shifted to Donald Trump. So what I'm saying is, despite Joe Biden's problems, I still expect Hispanic voters to shift to him, at least mainstream. But I wouldn't be shocked, if that does stagnate this election. But with black voters, do I think they're like some of these polls have Trump winning 30%? Like that shit is absolutely ludicrous. Like I don't think Trump will dramatically improve with black voters. I could see him improving with some black men, but that would be canceled out by black women. So yeah. But again, like I just think that turnout from black voters in particular, I think that Kamala Harris helps. Like Raphael Warnock, they help. But they don't do everything. That's something that Democrats should have learned from Mandela Barnes and Sherry Beasley. Like, they did better than a white candidate would have done. Like, if you would have ran a white candidate in North Carolina, they probably would have lost by 6 or 7, like 5 or 6. They would have lost by a lot more, but they still weren't able to turn out enough to win. Same thing with Mandela Barnes. Like, I think that they would have ran Sarah Goluska, they probably would have lost by the same margins that Ron DeSantis beat his other opponents. But regardless, I mean, not Ron DeSantis, Ron Johnson. Like Ron Johnson was beating his other opponents by 3 or 4. He only beat Mandela Barnes by 1. So again, like if they would have ran, you know, a cookie cutter candidate, like you know what I'm saying, like they would have lost by more. But running 2 black candidates just was not enough to juice up black turnout in Milwaukee, to juice it up across North Carolina for Democrats to win. So I definitely think Democrats should have invested more money in that race. That's something else I want to talk about. But you get what I'm saying, like that's just not enough. Like it helps, but it's just not going to get you there because these voters they're mad because you're giving Ukraine money. Why are you giving white Ukrainians money? Like from their perspective, Why are you giving them money instead of us when we voted for you? Why are you helping the LGBT community? Most of these voters are anti. That's you understand. Like these voters are anti-LGBT. They don't support transgender rights at all. Like they're very anti. Like I grew up in this area. Like these voters are very anti-LGBT. Like they might tolerate them, but they only vote for Democrats because of race issues. They're really socially conservative. So they're anti-LGBT. They are anti. They have beef with immigrants as well because again, like why are you helping immigrants? Especially considering that a lot of these immigrants, they end up voting Republican when they can vote. Like a lot of these immigrants, like they're shifting right. So why are you know what I'm saying? Like so again, why are you helping them instead of us? Like that's their mentality. So you can't convince them that someone who, could pass all of these things for other groups of people that can pass a hate crime bill for Asian Americans can't do shit for them. And that is a huge problem for Biden. He's trying to fix that. But I think that it's damaged. And I think Joe Biden kind of really sealed the clock. And I'm going to make a video about how Joe Biden might have cost Joe Biden reelection. That's going to be in the future. But you get what I'm saying? Like, I think that his image is permanently scarred as well with younger voters because student loan cancellation, like a lot of these programs that Joe Biden promised to younger voters, that shit has not been achieved. So why are they going to turn out for him? Like, why would you turn out for someone who did not do what you elected them to do? And all of these things like abortion, all of these things like affirmative action, why did Joe Biden not stop it? That's how they see it from their perspective. Why did this shit happen? Like, why did Joe sit back and watch this? In other words, you're ineffective. You don't hold any weight anyway. Like voting for you doesn't matter because you can't even stop people from doing this shit anyway. So if you're so unwilling to take on the challenges, why are we gonna turn out for you again? That's their perception from, him because all of this shit that unfolded under Biden's presidency. It might have been Trump's work, but it happened under Biden's presidency, and that's what they tied together. So that is a really big issue for him nationally, a really big problem, as well as just trying to convince. Because I think Joe Biden would definitely improve with suburban voters, but suburban voters do not net Democrats enough votes. I don't understand. Like these moderate voters, they're only helping because they're trending left, but Democrats are only like they barely net votes from these counties. And some of them they're losing. They're losing them by less, but they're still losing them. You're still losing these areas. You win because of your base turning out, not because of swing voters. Hillary Clinton did a lot better in the suburbs, and she still lost. Terry McAuliffe outran his first, like he did so much better in the college educated parts of Virginia relative to what he did in 2013. But what happened? Black turnout was in the trenches in both of them, and they lost. Like youth turnout was in the trenches, they lost. So again, like if you can't turn out your own base, you're gonna lose, regardless of you improving with other demographics. They're never gonna make up for a demographic that breaks 90-10 for you. So that is problem number one for Biden. And I don't think Democrats talk about it enough because I've seen it firsthand. So the last thing I want to talk about is something that's really personal to me because obviously you guys know I'm in the US Air Force, like I'm in the military. And as recently, we're seeing a government shutdown in the works. And I want to say that this is something that's dear and personal to me, as well as my friends, because unfortunately, I might not get paid this week or the week or the next pay period after that. And that's really scary. Um, Here I am in a foreign country across the whole Pacific Ocean, putting on a uniform, and I can't even like get paid. And I don't think people understand like how scary that is. Like I might actually not get paid. And I do want to say like there's a lot of benefits being in the military. Like the military has brought me to a whole nother country. I've had so many positive experiences. But regardless, like I might not get paid. I want you to put that in perspective, like what it's like to put on a uniform every day and, sacrifice so much for a country, for an institution, and not get paid for doing it. And yeah, I'm gonna get back pay eventually, but I might not get paid. And that's very, very scary. A very scary concept. Um, and then is that gonna make me not do my duties? Absolutely not. But regardless, like, I just want you to put that in perspective because this shit is real. Like it affects people like me. My friends, I know people that are scared. They don't know how they're gonna pay their bills. They don't know what they're gonna do. Because these bills don't stop billing because you're in the military, like because you don't get paid. Like this shit affects people. And I don't think people understand it. Like I don't think that people really put it in perspective. And I understand that, yeah, like some of you guys, you don't really know people in the military, like you don't know people that will be affected by this shutdown. But this shit is real. It's real. And I don't think anyone should ever have to be in a situation like this. I miss Christmas. I miss Thanksgiving. I miss New Year's. I had to sacrifice that so I could do my duty to this country, so I could do my job that I signed up for. I do want to point out that this is a choice. Of course, like no one joined the military with a gun to their head. But regardless, like I have sacrificed a lot. I don't know when I'll see my family again. I live thousands of miles away from them. I don't even live in North America anymore. Fuck the United States. I don't even live in it. I don't even live in North America anymore. Like I live in a completely different continent, in a completely different country, in Tokyo. Like I'm so far away from America. Like, and who knows how long it will be before I come back to the States? Because I'm gonna be here for 3 years. And more than likely I won't even come back to the States after that. I lived in 3 different states this year. Georgia, Mississippi, and Texas. And I basically lived in Washington too because I was there for so long because of a delayed plane flight. So again, like I've lived in 3 different states this year and miss, like I said, miss Christmas, miss New Year's, miss Thanksgiving. All of that shit that y'all got to do with y'all family, I didn't get to do. And I want you to put that in perspective into military members, into because you hear people talk about this government shutdown, but I want to talk about it from someone that's going to be affected by it the most. And I want you to think about that. Like this stuff is really real. And over some petty ass bullshit, like it's really frustrating to see. So I wanted to end the video on that note. Um, it's been a lot for me. I'm getting adjusted to a new country, a new job, a new place, understanding different things about the world because now I'm dealing with geopolitical shit. Like I'm gonna start talking about that because obviously politics is very important. But now that I'm in another part of the world, I'm dealing with geopolitical problems. Like the problem over here is China, it's North Korea, it's global threats. We're talking about Democrat, Republican. Like where I'm at, we're talking about actual foreign issues. So I think that I might move into talking about that on this channel as well. And I also plan on, bringing some of my other military friends on here from other states. Like I have friends from Arizona, like friends from important swing states. And I kind of want to like, have them make videos about their own state from their perspective, talk about the voters they know in their own states that will make a huge impact in this election, in upcoming elections, as well as, some of my international friends I met here in Japan and, in Europe as well, like as well as South Korea, like some of my international friends I know, some of my translators I work with, they have a political perspective, and I think that diversity of opinion is the most important thing ever. So I plan on bringing them on in the future as well. So please like, comment, and subscribe. Have a nice day, you guys. I know I uploaded a lot today, but I think that these are some very important topics. And I had a lot to get off my chest, and I plan on doing this a lot more often. So please make sure to check out these videos. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this. Have a nice day, you guys. Goodbye.